Okay, welcome back. I've been busy. I have some projects to do before the holiday season come up. I had to turn about 100 and something bangles, so that was keeping me busy. Part of it, I was going to turn some seam rippers. This is part of it, and it's pretty basic, same as a pen. I have a couple of tricks that I want to show you. As you can see, I put the this is cool. I put the super glue on the ends. What that does, it'll penetrate in there. If you don't have a good glue on the brass thing in there, I forget what that's called. Anyway, sorry. So you just put super glue on there. What that helps is when you start to turn this off, hopefully you won't bust that off, because if it busts off and you lose part of this, you got to go hunt for it in your thing, in your dust pile. And I do that on both sides, right? Okay. Hang on. Okay, I got it mounted between centers. I really wish I could zoom closer, but I figured this may be a different or better angle. Hopefully it is. If the mic's facing this way, then maybe you won't hear so much music. But yeah, I got it between centers, and I'm gonna go through a couple of things before I put this on time lapse. What I want to show you is this trick. The ends are very important. Oh, I guess you need to tighten that. The bends are important if you want to not break that corner off. So this go very gently, etc., etc. I don't go this way because I think you have a bigger chance of chipping something off. I just go down to where the super glue is, and as you can see, the super glue helps keep your pieces from flying off, right? Anyway, so got to do that on both ends. I'm going to put this on time lapse so you don't have to watch me do all of this. Okay, I got it down to a cylinder, as all of my projects type of style I do. I turn it down to a cylinder. This is another trick that I think is very important. Get your sanding block, 400 grit sandpaper, and what I do is I sand that I still can't remember what that is. Anyway, that brass thing, Jesus, getting old. I sand the end, and what that does is it makes your end nice and clean and even. It also polishes, shines up that brass sleeve. There you go. With these seam rippers, you actually take the part out and you have to look at this, and if you have a thing that kind of looks ugly like that, it's not very attractive. So I use 400 grit, and well, yeah, you can use finer if you want, but I sand it until that brass sleeve in there gets uniform and shined up. See, there's still got a little bit to go. What this also does is it makes sure, and you see I'm turning it, right? It makes sure that this is completely flat. And if you do this enough, half of the time when you put this back between the bushings, it'll be no longer centered, because now it's guaranteed to be almost perfectly centered, if not very perfectly centered. Tighten everything up. Okay, and then you shape to whatever style you want. I personally like to put a little lump on the end, slimmer in the center, and a lump on the other end, a bead lump. I like to make one side bigger than the other. Gives your customer a choice to whichever side he or she wants to use. Also, the other thing that I learned from turning mallets is if it rolls, it won't roll straight off. It may roll in an arc. Well, it should roll in an arc and may not roll all the way off the table. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll put it on time lapse again. Okay, I stopped after I started sanding because I'm sorry. since you watch me sand through all the grits, I've sanded to 320. This is 400, and this is the last grit I use. I don't go much finer than this. One tip is get your edge. You guys know, right? I fold this into thirds. This is a quarter sheet. Cut the quarter sheet in half, fold it into thirds. Gives me a little bit more rigidity. And don't forget this corner and the other corner. Okay. So as you're going through the grits, all you're doing is removing a scratch mark from the grit before, right? I did all of the final shaping with 80 grit, 100 grit. I don't use 80 grit. Probably proud to say. Just kidding. I started with 100 grit, and this is 400. When you see the wood become a uniform dullness, then you know you're all done. Okay. And I only go with the grain on the final, which is this 400. Okay, I lost a couple of videos. One of them is the finishing, and the other one was the turning from the initial blank to the cylinder. I'm not sure what happens, but this camera sometimes it just loses things. Maybe I don't press start or whatever. But anyway, so this is going to be a finish. This is MacNut. It's a different blank. Right now I am working on 10 of these. So again, for the craft show, this is super glue. I make these little pieces of glue towel. I cut them into these little sections and try not to glue them onto my finger. I'm not sure if I showed you this on the pen part, but basically just with rotation I put super glue on, and hopefully it's a nice even coat. This first coat I let dry completely, and I'm going to talk while I'm shifting this speed because it's a little too fast. And I let this one dry because if you use accelerator on super glues, sometimes it turns them white and cooks them, and when you have a finished piece like this, you don't really want that to get that white finish. So hopefully this is dry. Feels pretty dry. I'm not going to wait too long. It's an interesting piece because it's got all of these bug holes. Hopefully it's interesting. Hopefully somebody will buy it. Anyway, I get the blue shop towels and I cut them into these little pre-cut little strips here. Okay, here we go to coat number 2. So yeah, this is a little slower, a little bit easier. Accelerator. This one's okay to accelerate because if you do get it to crystallize and make white stuff, see I glue this stuff to my fingers and stuff. I have been asked why don't I use gloves, and my answer is I've used gloves, and of course if you use gloves, what happens when that sticks is it sticks to the glove and the glove sticks there, and now you got to sand this piece of rubber that's on your piece. So I prefer to be in pain and get this removed off. Anyway, it's a choice. You can use gloves if you want. I put a couple of coats. I can still see little pock marks and stuff, so I'm gonna put one more coat. You can use medium. This is thin. The faster you go, the less chance you have of gluing that piece of blue cloth to your, blue paper towel to your finger. Alright, okay, that's pretty good. Now, you may or may not want to stop there, but I'll show you. So you see that those lines? Those are the lines from when I moved things, so you don't want that. You will feel that. So I try to get all of that off. You see there's more there. And what I want to do is I want to sand most of this off. Try to get as close to the original wood as I can. And the reason for that is I don't really care for the plasticky feel of this super glue, but I think if you get it closer to the original wood, it may still feel plasticky, but maybe not as much. Just an opinion. I don't know if that actually matters or not. This is 400 grit. You can go finer if you want. And yes, it does make a difference. But I think for seam rippers, because you use it and you're pressing against threads and whatnots, I've been told that they prefer a matte finish. I don't know. I don't do this, so this is clean. All right. So what I'm trying to get rid of is those things. If you can see them in the camera, that's a little divot. McNutt is not very solid. I may just not bother with. I'll sand some. Saw those little spiral looking things from the glue. Good thing I'm doing this again. Alright, let's see. Oh, lost my wire. Okay, better. Light sanding. What I'm trying to do is make sure I don't have those little streaks of that. And I don't want to sand too much because the next step is going to be the polishing. And that's that grit and shine stuff. You can actually use this on the raw wood and you'll get a matte finish on this. I'm going to do that with some, but I decided to try this McNutt with the super glue. And if I had a variable speed lathe, of course I would turn the speed up because this works faster with a little bit more speed. Those are nylon things, so you don't super glue your seam ripper to the bushings. Of course, you can buy these, and the companies will probably not be happy that I'm telling you this, but you can also go to your favorite hardware store and search. They're hard to find in the nuts and bolt section. They're nylon bushings, and they're significantly cheaper. You have a lathe, you can make round things, put them on this, you can make these. I made these. Anyway. You say use cocktail on this, so you can see the difference, right? That's McNutt, complete with bug holes. There's a little feature that maybe somebody will appreciate. If not, too bad, so sad. But yep, MacNut. That's almost pretty good. I'm gonna do another coat. These grit and shine products, I like them for this because you a little goes a long way, and you can keep doing this. And they say to refresh the stuff because this is an abrasive, and if you just keep doing this without refreshing the abrasive part, then you don't get no fresh abrasive. So anyway, and you see how fast this is. And I only sanded once. If you do sand up into the 20,000-30,000 bit sandpapers, which I'm sure you know who makes those, you will get a much nicer finish because it's going to be in the wood, not the finish itself. And yes, for my nicer pens, I will use the higher grits of sandpaper to make the wood itself shiny before I even start the CA. And yes, it does make a difference. Oh, there's still dull spots there, but let's see. Oh yeah, that's much better. Okay, well, let me see if I can add this to the video, and maybe this one won't be lost. Okay, thank you very much.